On the desolate junk world of Lothal Minor, the once mighty Sith apprentice, Darth Maul, teeters on the brink of madness. After his defeat at the hands of Obi-Wan Kenobi on Naboo, Maul's shattered body was discarded, left to rot. Yet, fueled by unrelenting rage and an iron will, he cobbled together crude spider-like mechanical legs from the scrap around him. The days blur into nights in this wasteland, where he hunts for sustenance and scraps, his mind a battlefield of torment. Haunted by visions of betrayal and defeat, Maul clings to one purpose: vengeance against the Jedi who humiliated him, and the Sith Master who discarded him. Above the planet, the Sanctuary II, the imposing flagship of Thanos, glides into orbit. Thanos, always on the hunt for resources to further his universal quest for balance, has sent his Black Order to investigate readings of rare materials emanating from the planet's surface. Within the Sanctuary's second, the Mad Titan strategizes, his dark presence casting a shadow over his subordinates. He tasks Proxima Midnight, Corvus Glaive, Ebony Maw, and Cull Obsidian with leading an expedition to secure what the planet has to offer. Unknown to them, the derelict planet hides a predator who has survived on Fury alone. The Black Order deploys to the planet's surface, their sleek transport cutting through the perpetual haze of Lothal Minor. Upon landing, they spread out, scanning the terrain and harvesting the valuable materials scattered among the debris. The junk piles form a maze of sharp edges and unstable terrain, creating an eerie atmosphere as the Order moves with precision, their advanced equipment humming quietly. From the shadows, Maul watches, his yellow eyes glowing with malice. He senses their power, an unfamiliar presence, unlike the Force but radiating with strength nonetheless. His spider-like legs creak as he shifts, calculating his move. Driven by an instinct for survival and a desire to reclaim his dominance, Maul strikes. He emerges from the darkness, his makeshift staff swinging with lethal intent. The Black Order is caught off guard by the sheer ferocity of the attack. Proxima Midnight deflects his blows with her spear, while Corvus Glaive counters with his blade. Maul's combat style, a mixture of Sith brutality and animalistic desperation, makes him a formidable opponent. He hurls scrap metal using the Force, disrupting their formations and landing blows with his staff. However, the Black Order's teamwork and advanced weaponry begin to turn the tide. Ebony Maw uses his telekinetic abilities to restrain Maul, suspending him mid-air as Cull Obsidian charges, delivering a devastating blow that sends Maul crashing into a pile of junk. Bloodied but unbroken, Maul rises, only to be struck down again by Proxima Midnight's spear, which discharges a paralyzing shock. As darkness consumes him, Maul's last thought is a vow to make his attackers suffer. When Maul regains consciousness, he finds himself in a containment chamber aboard the Sanctuary Tseku. His mechanical legs are clamped down by energy restraints, and his arms are bound in a similar manner. The chamber is sterile and dimly lit, a stark contrast to the chaotic landscape he has called home. The faint hum of the ship's engines resonates through the walls. Maul strains against his bonds, his hatred simmering as he recalls the battle. Suddenly, the chamber door slides open, and Thanos enters, his massive frame dominating the room. Maul glares at the Mad Titan, defiant despite his captivity. Thanos studies Maul with cold interest, intrigued by the creature before him. He questions Maul about his identity and how he came to exist on Lothal Minor. Maul spits venomous words, declaring himself a Sith Lord, apprentice to Darth Sidious, and master of the dark side. Thanos, unimpressed, dismisses the title as hollow, his amusement evident in the slight curve of his lips. He acknowledges Maul's resilience, but questions his worth, probing him for details about his powers and purpose. Maul recounts his tale reluctantly, describing his betrayal by Sidious and his defeat by the Jedi. He masks his humiliation with anger, emphasizing his survival as proof of his strength. Thanos listens intently, recognizing the raw potential in Maul's story. He sees an opportunity to mold this discarded Sith into a weapon, a means to further his quest for universal domination. Offering Maul a chance at survival, Thanos proposes an alliance. Maul will serve him in exchange for power, resources, and the means to exact his revenge. Maul, though seething at the idea of servitude, calculates his options. Weakened and without allies, he recognizes that refusal means death. He feigns submission, bowing his head and agreeing to Thanos' terms. Within his mind, however, schemes begin to form. He knows Thanos underestimates him, and he plans to exploit this alliance to his advantage. As the restraints release and Maul collapses to the floor, he locks eyes with Thanos, his yellow irises burning with a mix of fury and ambition. Thanos commands his engineers to repair Maul's body, replacing his crude spider legs with advanced mechanical limbs. The upgrades are sleek and powerful, restoring much of Maul's mobility and combat potential. When Maul rises for the first time on his new legs, he feels a surge of strength and confidence. Yet the sting of dependency on Thanos fuels his desire to one day break free. Maul confronts Thanos, demanding to know why he was saved. The Mad Titan's answer is simple. Power recognizes power, and Maul's potential is worth cultivating. As the Sanctuary 2 continues its journey, Maul is introduced to the Black Order as an ally. Proxima Midnight, skeptical of Maul's loyalty, warns Thanos of potential betrayal. Thanos dismisses her concerns, confident in his ability to control Maul. Meanwhile, Maul begins training, testing his new limbs and learning the intricacies of the Black Order's mission. Though outwardly compliant, Maul's hatred festers, and his plans for revenge grow ever more elaborate. In the silence of his private quarters, Maul meditates, reaching out with the Force. He senses the threads of fate intertwining, a galaxy ripe for conquest. For now, he will bide his time, playing the role of a loyal servant. But in the depths of his heart, Maul knows his moment will come, and when it does, neither Thanos nor the Black Order will be prepared for the storm he will unleash. The Sanctuary 2 sailed through the void of space, a fortress of dread under Thanos' command. Darth Maul had spent the weeks since his rescue, adapting to his new environment and calculating his moves. His advanced mechanical legs, designed with cutting-edge engineering, offered him agility and strength, far beyond his previous capabilities. The corridors of the Sanctuary 2 echoed with the clanging of metal as Maul trained, pushing his new limbs to their limits. He sparred relentlessly with members of the Black Order, studying their combat styles while masking his disdain for them. Maul knew he was being tested, gauged for his loyalty and utility. The Black Order, however, underestimated the cunning Sith warrior. During one such sparring session, Maul faced off against Corvus Glaive. The sharp clash of Corvus's blade against Maul's double-bladed staff reverberated through the training chamber. Maul's strikes were ferocious, calculated, and relentless. Corvus, though skilled, was forced on the defensive, his blade barely keeping up with the onslaught. Proxima Midnight observed from the shadows, her arms crossed, a frown etched on her face. She could see that Maul was more than a brute. He was a strategist, a predator who played the long game. When the sparring match concluded with Maul pinning Corvus against the wall, Proxima stepped forward, clapping slowly. "You fight like someone with something to prove," she said, her voice dripping with skepticism. Maul turned to her, his yellow eyes glowing with barely restrained malice. "I fight like someone who knows what true power is," he replied, his voice calm but threatening. Later that day, Maul was summoned to Thanos' throne room. The chamber was vast and foreboding, with Thanos seated on a raised platform, his expression unreadable. Maul approached, bowing slightly, his mind racing with possibilities. Thanos gestured for him to rise and spoke in his deep, commanding voice. "I have a mission for you, Maul," Thanos began. "The Black Order will soon secure the coordinates to a hidden cache of power, artifacts that may hold the key to controlling the galaxy. I want you to accompany them and ensure the mission's success. If you prove yourself, your position here will be elevated." Maul nodded, hiding his disdain. "As you command, my lord." The mission would take them to a desolate moon, rumored to house ancient weapons of immense power. As Maul prepared for the journey, he reflected on Thanos' words. He knew Thanos viewed him as a pawn, a tool to be used and discarded. But Maul had no intention of remaining a servant. This mission could provide the opportunity he needed to begin his ascent. The Black Order, accompanied by Maul, descended to the moon's surface in a sleek transport vessel. The terrain was barren and ominous, with jagged rocks and swirling mists obscuring their path. Maul moved with purpose, his mechanical legs adapting seamlessly to the uneven ground. Ebony Maw led the group, his telekinetic powers carving a path through the obstacles. As they approached a massive stone temple, Maul's senses flared. He felt the lingering presence of the dark side, an energy he had not encountered since his time as a Sith apprentice. The temple's entrance was guarded by ancient droids, their design archaic yet formidable. The Black Order moved to engage, but Maul stepped forward, raising his hand. "Let me handle this," he said, his voice filled with authority. Maul activated his double-bladed staff and charged at the droids. The battle was a blur of crimson light and metallic clashes as Maul dismantled the Guardians with surgical precision. His movements were a deadly dance, blending raw power with finesse. The Black Order watched in awe as Maul single-handedly cleared the path. Inside the temple, the group discovered a chamber filled with artifacts glowing with an otherworldly light. Ebony Maw began cataloging the items, while Proxima Midnight stood guard. Maul, however, was drawn to a particular object, a dark, crystalline orb pulsating with energy. As he reached out to touch it, a vision overwhelmed him. He saw a galaxy engulfed in flames, armies clashing, and a shadowy figure laughing amidst the chaos. He saw himself standing at the center of it all, wielding unimaginable power. When the vision faded, Maul knew what he had to do. This orb could be the key to his revenge, the weapon he needed to reclaim his destiny. Before he could act, Corvus Glaive interrupted. "We're taking the artifacts back to the Sanctuary too. Thanos will decide their fate." Maul nodded, concealing his intentions. The artifacts were loaded onto the transport, and the group returned to the ship. Throughout the journey back, Maul remained silent, his mind racing. He had felt a connection to the orb, a bond that he intended to explore. He knew that Thanos would never willingly relinquish such power, which meant Maul would have to take it by force. Back on the sanctuary in Sektu, Thanos examined the artifacts with great interest. He commended the Black Order and Maul for their success, but made it clear that the power now belonged to him. Maul bowed, his face expressionless, but inside, his rage boiled. He began formulating a plan to claim the power for himself and destroy Thanos in the process. Maul spent the following days secretly studying the orb, using his knowledge of the dark side to unlock its secrets. He meditated in his quarters, channeling the orb's energy and growing stronger with each passing moment. The time was approaching when he would challenge the Mad Titan, and Maul knew that victory would require more than brute strength. It would require cunning, strategy, and the element of surprise. Back aboard the Sanctuary 2, tension simmered as Darth Maul worked tirelessly in secret, growing stronger with the orb's energy. The Sith Lord's mechanical legs paced relentlessly across his quarters as he plotted his next move. Thanos, ever the strategist, seemed unaware of Maul's growing ambitions. The Black Order, however, were less convinced of Maul's loyalty. Proxima Midnight and Corvus Glaive whispered suspicions, though Ebony Maw urged caution. Maul, meanwhile, focused on his endgame, channeling the orb's energy to enhance his connection to the dark side. One day, during a routine assembly in the war room, Thanos outlined his next conquest. He detailed his plans to invade a system rich with resources and rumored to hold another Infinity Stone. Maul stood among the Black Order, silent but observant. Thanos' words carried weight, yet Maul's thoughts were consumed by his vision from the orb. He saw himself wielding the power of the cosmos, free of masters and ruling his own empire. He had no intention of being Thanos' pawn any longer. The opportunity to strike came unexpectedly. A distress signal from the outer edge of the galaxy drew the Sanctuary 2 toward an ambush laid by a coalition of resistance fighters. The starship was thrust into chaos as enemy vessels swarmed around it. Alarms blared, and the Black Order scrambled to engage the attackers. Thanos himself strode toward the command bridge, issuing orders with unwavering confidence. In the chaos, Maul acted. He entered the artifact chamber, his steps purposeful and quiet. Rows of stolen treasures gleamed under dim lighting, but his focus was singular. The dark crystalline orb rested on a pedestal at the center, pulsating with energy. As Maul approached, he extended a clawed hand, gripping the orb tightly. He felt its immense power surge through him, amplifying his already formidable strength and sharpening his mind. But Maul wasn't alone. Proxima Midnight, ever vigilant, had followed him. "I knew you couldn't be trusted," she snarled, stepping out from the shadows, her spear at the ready. Corvus Glaive appeared behind her, his blade glinting ominously. "Thanos gave you a place here, and this is how you repay him." Maul turned, the orb still glowing in his grasp. His yellow eyes burned with fury. "Thanos gave me nothing but chains. I owe him nothing." Without further words, Maul ignited his double-bladed lightsaber, the crimson glow reflecting off the walls. The fight was swift and brutal. Proxima lunged, her spear aimed at Maul's chest. He parried effortlessly, his mechanical legs giving him the agility to evade her strikes while countering with deadly precision. Corvus joined the fray, his blade slicing through the air in a series of calculated attacks. Maul, however, was no stranger to overwhelming odds. His movements were a deadly combination of finesse and ferocity, and the orb's power coursing through him made him nearly unstoppable. As the duel reached its climax, Maul disarmed Proxima, her spear clattering to the floor. With a vicious strike, he severed Corvus's blade arm, sending him reeling in pain. Maul stood over them, his lightsaber humming menacingly. "Tell your master," Maul hissed, "that his reign is over." Leaving the defeated Black Order behind, Maul made his way to the command bridge, where Thanos was locked in a fierce battle with the Resistance fleet. The Mad Titan turned as Maul entered, his eyes narrowing at the sight of the glowing orb in Maul's hand. "So, you've made your choice," Thanos said. "The only choice was to rise," Maul replied, igniting his lightsaber. "And you, Thanos, will fall." The ensuing battle was nothing short of cataclysmic. Thanos, wielding his immense strength and the Power Stone, clashed with Maul, who used the orb's energy to amplify his dark side abilities. The bridge became a war zone, consoles exploding and walls crumbling under the force of their strikes. Maul's agility and ferocity were matched by Thanos' raw power and resilience. As the fight raged on, the Resistance fleet took advantage of the distraction, bombarding the Sanctuary 2 with heavy fire. The massive starship groaned under the assault, its shields failing and systems collapsing. The bridge began to implode, and alarms screamed throughout the vessel. Maul, realizing the ship was doomed, channeled the orb's energy into a final attack. He unleashed a wave of dark side power that sent Thanos staggering, giving Maul the chance to escape. Using his mechanical legs to leap through the crumbling debris, Maul made his way to an escape pod. As the Sanctuary 2 succumbed to the Resistance's firepower, Maul's escape pod hurtled into the void. His breath came in ragged gasps as he clutched the orb, its dark energy pulsing in his grasp. For the first time in years, Maul felt truly free. But he knew that his battle with Thanos was far from over. With the orb in his possession, Maul now had the power to reshape the galaxy, and he intended to do so on his own terms. As Maul's escape pod hurtled through the void, the orb pulsing in his grasp, his mind swirled with 1,000 possibilities. The Sanctuary Tseku was a crumbling wreck, the Resistance fleet having delivered a devastating blow. Thanos had been left behind amidst the chaos, though Maul knew the Mad Titan would not fall so easily. The question now was whether Maul could outmaneuver both his former captor and the Resistance, who would undoubtedly come after him to claim the orb. The escape pod landed on a remote, barren planet. The harsh winds howled as Maul stepped out, his crimson lightsaber igniting to cut away the debris that obstructed his exit. Surveying the landscape, he saw an ancient structure, a dilapidated temple that exuded a faint dark side energy. It would be his sanctuary for now. Inside, Maul began to meditate, the orb hovering before him. Its energy was intoxicating, filling him with visions of domination and power. He saw himself not just as a ruler, but as the ultimate force in the galaxy, surpassing both the Sith and Thanos. But his solitude was short-lived. Thanos' looming shadow emerged at the temple's entrance. The Titan's armor was scorched and his movements were slower, but his resolve was unbroken. In his hand, the Power Stone pulsed with a menacing glow. "You thought you could escape me, Maul," Thanos' deep voice echoed through the chamber. "You were a useful tool, but now you've become an obstacle." Maul rose from his meditative stance, his yellow eyes meeting Thanos' cold gaze. "I have no intention of being anyone's tool, least of all yours." Without further words, Thanos charged. The ground shook with each step as he unleashed a barrage of energy, blasts from the Power Stone. Maul darted through the shadows, using the orb's energy to enhance his speed and agility. His lightsaber flashed through the air as he leapt toward Thanos, aiming for a decisive strike. The battle was unlike any the temple had witnessed in its long-forgotten history. Maul's dark side mastery, amplified by the orb, clashed with Thanos' unrelenting power. Blasts of energy and strikes of crimson light illuminated the chamber, reducing ancient statues and walls to rubble. Maul's strikes were precise and relentless, but Thanos' durability and strength seemed endless. As the battle reached its peak, Maul activated a hidden mechanism in the temple. The ground beneath them began to rumble, revealing an underground chasm filled with ancient Sith artifacts. The dark energy surged, feeding both combatants as they fought with increasing intensity. "You've underestimated me, Thanos," Maul snarled, his lightsaber locking with Thanos' massive blade. "The power of the dark side is beyond anything you've ever encountered." "And you've underestimated my will," Thanos retorted, his grip tightening as he hurled Maul across the chamber with a mighty swing. Maul landed near a towering Sith obelisk, its inscriptions glowing with the power of the dark side. Drawing strength from the artifact, Maul unleashed a devastating force storm, sending shards of rock and energy spiraling toward Thanos. The Titan staggered, but stood his ground, using the Power Stone to absorb and redirect the attack. The battle turned into a war of attrition, each combatant refusing to yield. But as the fight dragged on, it became clear that Maul's rage was beginning to tip the scales. Channeling the orb's energy, Maul unleashed a feral onslaught, his lightsaber striking faster than even Thanos could counter. With a final, devastating blow, Maul severed the gauntlet from Thanos' arm, the Power Stone clattering to the ground. Thanos fell to one knee, breathing heavily. "You've won this battle, Maul," he growled, his voice tinged with reluctant admiration. "But you've only sealed your fate. Power like that always consumes." Maul approached, his lightsaber humming ominously. "Perhaps," he said, his voice cold and resolute, "but I will be the one to wield it." With a swift motion, Maul drove his lightsaber into Thanos' chest. The Mad Titan's eyes widened in shock before his body fell lifeless to the ground. Maul stood over his fallen adversary, his mechanical legs hissing softly as he deactivated his saber. The orb pulsed brighter now, its power unrestrained. Maul picked up the Power Stone and merged it with the orb, creating a fusion of dark energy unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The temple trembled as the combined power threatened to collapse the structure. Maul stepped outside, the barren landscape now illuminated by the glow of his newfound weapon. He knew he had become something greater than Sith or Jedi, greater than even Thanos, but he also knew that such power would draw attention, enemies, allies, and everything in between. As he gazed into the horizon, Maul whispered to himself, "This galaxy will kneel before me, not as a servant of the dark side, but as its master." Far above, resistance fleets and remnants of Thanos' Black Order tracked the orb's signal. Unbeknownst to Maul, his actions had set into motion a chain of events that would alter the galaxy's destiny forever.